They sent 12 humans to hold the line. What happened shook the galaxy. The transport Meridian descended through Delta 9's atmosphere, its scarred hull telling stories of desperate journeys across hostile space. Inside, 12 humans sat in silence, their standard gear looking pathetic compared to advanced weaponry they'd witnessed at Krylos stations. Captain Elena Ward, 26, with steel-gray eyes that had seen too much, studied the tactical display with mechanical precision. Her fingers traced defensive positions, calculating angles with someone who knew mistakes meant death. The data showed a chilling truth. Delta 9 was where hope died. Captain Lieutenant Mason Price's voice carried controlled recklessness. "The Krylos frequency is buzzing about us. Want the translations?" Elena's expression didn't change. "Save entertainment for after we secure the perimeter, Mason." Through viewports, Delta 9's landscape stretched endlessly twisted metal and crystalline formations that had once been forests before the Vorak Horde's campaigns. This wasn't a battlefield. It was a graveyard. Commander Vortal's transmission crackled through comms, his four-armed silhouette appearing on screen. "Warm bloods of Earth, you arrive at the final hour of a war consuming 12 sectors. Your species has no fangs, no armor, no advantages. Yet the Council expects miracles from creatures barely understanding their weapons." Elena stood slowly, radiating quiet authority. "Commander, we're here to hold the line." "Hold the line!" Vortal's arms gestured dismissively. "Warlord Krethar commands forces that devoured star systems. His warriors are bred for conquest, enhanced with biotechnology, making them living weapons. You bring 12 mammals with projectiles. By second sunrise, your bones will join others littering this ground." The transmission ended. Private Eli Brooks, 19 and trying to hide trembling hands, looked up from his rifle. "Captain, maybe he's right. Maybe we're not cut out for this." Elena's gaze swept her team faces, telling stories of doubt and determination. Sergeant Naomi Kessler interfaced with local networks, implants glowing as she gathered intelligence. Soldiers chosen not for superhuman abilities, but adaptability under impossible circumstances. "We weren't sent because we're strongest," Elena said, voice carrying conviction. "We're here because humanity has something the galaxy hasn't learned to value. When others see the end, we see possibilities beginning." The transport touched down with grinding impact. As ramps descended, Delta 9's atmosphere rushed in thin metallic air, carrying scents of ancient battles. Skeletal orbital platforms hung like broken promises against stars. Elena stepped onto crystallized sand fused by plasma bombardment. Behind her, 11 humans followed, not because they weren't afraid, but because fear taught them to think clearly, move carefully, trust completely. The Krylos observation post materialized from landscape like a mirage. Alien soldiers watched with detached interest of predators observing prey. Some whispered in grinding metal languages. Others stared with compound eyes reflecting no warmth. Elena caught fragments of translated conversations. "The warm bloods march to their execution. Krethar will enjoy fresh trophies. Even their gods have abandoned this place." Yet Elena felt something aliens couldn't detect, subtle shifts in her team's posture as they adapted. Mason found perfect weapon grips, Naomi mapped electromagnetic signatures, Eli's nervous energy became focused alertness. They weren't conquering heroes. They were humans. That would have to be enough. The Krylos command bunker showcased alien engineering crystalline walls, pulsing with displays tactical stations designed for four-armed compound vision. Elena's team looked painfully misplaced among sleek technology. Vortal's briefing room buzzed with tension as 6 species gathered around holographic displays. Zephyrian flight commanders with iridescent wings, Goliath shock troopers like living mountains, Krylos officers moving with calculated precision. Then, humans 12 individuals fading into background. Vorak advance exceeded projections. Vortal's translation rendered clicking speech mechanically. Krethar's forces broke through Altair defenses, moving toward Delta 9's resources. Intelligence suggests arrival within 72 hours. Holographic displays showed red indicators swarming like digital locusts. Each symbol represented hundreds of Vorak warriors, biotechnological enhancements, making them nearly unstoppable. Elena studied positions methodically, her human eyes seeing patterns sophisticated alien analysis missed. Northern approach shows concentration here. A Zephyrian commander trilled wingtips indicating positions. Reconnaissance confirms standard formations. Reinforce primary walls, concentrate heavy platforms. Commanders nodded agreement. Consensus was clear hold. Fortress walls rely on superior firepower. Hope reinforcements arrived before ammunition ran out. Elena raised her hand slightly, gesture so small it nearly went unnoticed. Commander Vortal, may I suggest alternative perspective? Silence fell. Aliens stared with expressions from curiosity to amusement. Vortal's mandibles clicked with surprised irritation. Warmbloods wish to contribute strategy, enlighten us with your vast interstellar warfare experience. Elena stepped toward holographic display. Vorik formations show standard predator pack behavior, concentrated assault on obvious positions. But they're leaving gaps here, here, and here. Small units could infiltrate behind advances, disrupt supply lines. A Goliath's carapace rattled with laughter-like sounds. Infiltration requires stealth beyond your evolutionary development. Your scent signatures would alert Vorak sensors from considerable distance. Besides, added a Krylos officer, such operations require precise coordination across hostile terrain. Your communication technology lacks quantum encryption for battlefield security. Elena nodded calmly. You're right about our limitations. We can't match your natural advantages. But sometimes limitations force creativity. She manipulated holographic controls zooming on terrain surrounding Delta 9. These crystal formations create electromagnetic interference, disrupting advanced sensors. Vorak rely on biotechnological enhancements, meaning vulnerability to low-tech countermeasures. While you defend obvious targets, we could hit unexpected ones. Alien commanders exchanged glances conveying complex meaning. Skepticism, calculation, desperate curiosity. Vortal's compound eyes focused on Elena with newfound attention. Your proposal lacks proper logistics. Human physiology cannot endure atmospheric conditions beyond perimeter for extended periods. Weapon systems require maintenance cycles, compromising operational security. Plus, interjected the Zephyrian voice carrying musical disdain, coordination requires trust levels taking cycles to develop. Your people have been here less than one rotation. Elena felt her team's presence radiating quiet support that had carried them through impossible situations. Commander, with respect, we didn't come to integrate into existing strategies. We came to win. Profound silence followed. Finally, Vortal's mandibles clicked in unfamiliar patterns. Warmbloods are assigned Sector 7 Eastern Perimeter. Standard defensive positions. Monitor communications, report contact through proper channels. Do not attempt independent operations without authorization. As briefing dissolved into discussions excluding human input, Elena's team formed up with practiced efficiency. They moved like single organisms, each understanding roles without verbal communication. Alien commanders barely noticed their departure. Outside, Delta 9's landscape stretched under distant starglow. Elena led toward assigned sector passing alien sentries, watching with expressions from pity to contempt. Captain, Naomi whispered, alien networks are more porous than they realize. I'm monitoring private channels. Elena kept walking. What are they saying? Betting pools on survival time. Most estimate 18 hours after first contact. Some speculate whether we'll retreat or freeze when real fighting starts. Mason's jaw tightened. Maybe we should show them what humans can do when... No. Elena's voice cut through rising anger surgically. Let them underestimate us. Let them focus on technological advantages while we focus on winning. Eli looked back at command bunker glowing against twilight. Captain, what if they're right? What if we're really out of our league? Elena stopped turning to face her team. 12 humans on alien battlefields surrounded by species considering them evolutionary failures. Steel gray eyes swept each face, not seeking weakness, but confirming known strength. Eli, you know why humanity survived ice ages while stronger species went extinct? We learned to adapt. While others relied on natural advantages, we learned creating advantages. We're not here to match their capabilities. We're here to find ways when everyone says there isn't one. Sector 7 testified to interstellar warfare's brutal efficiency. Crystalline formations jutted like frozen scream surfaces bearing molecular signatures of weapons, atomizing matter at subatomic levels. Elena's team established positions among alien monuments. Attack came without warning. Mason was checking perimeter sensors when readings spiked sharp teleportation technology signatures. Contact multiple signatures materializing Echo 7. Estimate 12 to 15 hostiles moving fast. Elena's tactical display painted emerging threats starkly. Vorak scouts materialized from quantum flux like nightmares gaining substance bipedal insectoids, nearly 3 meters tall carapaces gleaming with biotechnological enhancements, turning living tissue into weapons. Standard Vorak reconnaissance pattern, Elena announced with mechanical calm. They're testing response protocols, mapping positions. Naomi communication signature. Naomi's cybernetic implants interfaced with sensor arrays. Encrypted quantum bursts, Captain. Real-time reports to main force. Whatever we do, their commanders will know immediately. Vorak scouts moved through formations with fluid grace, enhanced physiology, navigating terrain, challenging most species. They probed sensor blind spots, tested response times, calculated fire angles with apex predator precision. Elena watched movement patterns, cataloging behaviors and vulnerabilities. Mason take Alpha Team establish crossfire positions, 7 Alpha. Eli Charlie Team holds eastern approach. Everyone else maintain positions and let them come. Captain Trites, Eli's voice carried uncertainty. Shouldn't we alert main command, let them coordinate response through proper channels? Elena's gray eyes never left tactical display. By the time their protocols process threat assessment, these scouts will be gone, and Krethar will know everything about our capabilities. Sometimes proper channels are too slow. First Vorak scout rounded crystal formation, finding himself staring at Eli's concealed position. For eternity-stretched moments, predator and prey evaluated each other enhanced warrior with centuries of genetic refinement facing young human with standard equipment. Vorak's optical implants flared, triggering communication systems to transmit detailed intelligence. That's when Eli did something no alien tactical computer predicted. He smiled. "Hey there, ugly! Welcome to Delta 9. The improvised explosive assembled from power cells, communication components, and mining charges Naomi had requisitioned. When Eli triggered remote detonation blast, didn't just eliminate the Vorak. It created localized electromagnetic pulse, disrupting quantum communication networks. For 37 seconds, Vorak scouts were cut from command structure. In species relying heavily on centralized coordination, those seconds might as well have been years. Mason's Alpha Team moved through formations like Ghost's movements coordinated by hand signals rather than advanced technology. They used terrain as weapons, channeling disoriented Vorak into killing zones, where human weapons compensated for individual combat disadvantages. Multiple contacts down, Mason reported. These bugs rely too heavily on network connections, cut strings and they stumble like everyone else. But Vorak were survivors of countless battles. Remaining scouts adapted to communication blackout by reverting to primitive coordination methods. They began moving in patterns not requiring quantum encryption, using visual signals and pheromone markers, bypassing electronic countermeasures. Elena watched their adaptation. They're learning. Naomi, how long until network reestablishment? 18 minutes basic functionality, Captain, but they're switching to backup protocols I can't interrupt. Tactical situation deteriorated rapidly. Surviving Vorak had mapped enough human positions posing significant threats, adaptive capabilities, meaning same tricks wouldn't work twice. Elena faced classic human dilemma, outnumbered, outgunned, rapidly running out of advantages. That's when she noticed something alien computers missed. Vorak were moving in patterns suggesting they expected traditional defensive responses. They anticipated static positions, overlapping fire fields, coordinated withdrawals. What they didn't expect was defenders doing something completely irrational. All teams listen carefully. We're going to do something violating every tactical doctrine in galactic military handbooks. We're going to attack. Profound silence followed. Even Mason seemed taken aback. Attacking numerically superior enemy forces with better equipment wasn't tactics, it was suicide. Captain Eli carried genuine concern. Scouts have superior mobility and integrated systems. Direct assault would expose us to exactly what they're not prepared for, Elena interrupted. These warriors spent centuries perfecting defenses against sophisticated opponents. They know countering advanced weapons, coordinated strategies, superior numbers. But they've never faced someone stupid enough to charge straight at them with inferior equipment and complete tactical logic disregard. Elena's plan was elegantly simple: divide remaining Vorak by making them think humans were retreating in panic, then hit from multiple directions simultaneously. It required split-second timing, absolute team trust, and desperate courage other species mistook for stupidity. Mason, take your team north, make lots of noise. Convince them you're falling back in disorder. Eli, eastern approach, same thing. When they move to intercept retreating humans, we hit them from behind with everything. Plan worked because it shouldn't have worked. Vorak scouts trained, expecting rational behavior, interpreted human movement as coordinated withdrawal. They moved intercepting retreating forces, focusing on pursuit rather than defense. That's when Elena's reserve team struck from concealment weapons, targeting Vorak's less protected rear anatomy. Simultaneously, Mason and Eli's retreating forces reversed direction, catching pursuing scouts in crossfire, negating mobility advantages. Battle lasted exactly 4 minutes, 17 seconds. When ended, 12 Vorak scouts lay scattered among crystal formations, biotechnological enhancements, no match for human unpredictability and improvised tactics. More importantly, their quantum communication network never reestablished. Elena stood among aftermath gray eyes, surveying alien battlefield. Around her, 11 humans checked equipment, treated injuries, prepared for whatever would come next. They had won first engagement not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through simple human refusal to fight by other species' rules. Captain Naomi's voice carried wonder. I'm monitoring alien networks across sector. Word about our engagement is spreading faster than official reports. Other species, they're trying to understand how we eliminated full reconnaissance team without casualties. Elena smiled for first time since landing. Let them wonder, Naomi. Sometimes most effective weapon is enemy's inability to predict what you'll do next. Eli approached youthful face, showing first confidence traces Elena had seen. Captain, think they'll take us more seriously now. Elena looked toward main command bunker. Eli, in about 6 hours, they're going to realize that sending 12 humans to hold impossible lines wasn't desperate mistake. It was the most dangerous decision the Galactic Council could have made. First battle was over. Real war was just beginning. Counterattack came at dawn, if dawn had meaning on worlds where artificial suns cast perpetual twilight. Elena's tactical display showed what every strategist dreaded: enemy contacts multiplying exponentially. Captain, massive displacement signatures across northern approach. Naomi's voice carried forced calm. Warlord Krithar isn't sending scouts. This is full assault formation. Elena studied incoming data with mechanical precision, processing threat assessments faster than alien computers. 300 Vorak warriors backed by biotechnological war machines defying classification. Aerial support from creatures equal parts organism and weapons platform, and leading them all something so massive sensors couldn't determine where biology ended and technology began. That's Krithar himself, she announced. Intelligence puts him nearly 5 meters tall with integrated weapons leveling buildings. He's not just commanding, he's making it personal. Mason checked weapon charge for third time in minutes, cockiness replaced by professional assessment. Captain, with respect, 12 humans against 300 enhanced warriors isn't tactics, it's mathematics. And math says we're dead. Math also said we couldn't eliminate that reconnaissance team yesterday, Elena replied. Sometimes mathematics doesn't account for human variables. Krylos command bunker broadcast emergency signals across frequencies, sophisticated systems struggling to process incoming threat scale. Elena heard translated fragments, withdrawal orders, bombardment requests, desperate reinforcement calls everyone knew wouldn't arrive. Vortal's voice cut through chaos with absolute authority. All defensive units implement Protocol 7. Fall back to secondary positions, establish overlapping fire fields. Prioritize survival over tactical objectives. Elena's implant chirped with priority transmission. Vortal's compound eyes appeared on display, conveying what might have been regret. Captain Ward, withdraw personnel to main bunker. Your species has proven resourceful, but this assault exceeds reasonable parameters. Negative, Commander. Sector 7 remains our responsibility. We'll hold positions and provide early warning. Captain, your courage is noted, but 12 humans cannot. Elena cut transmission, focusing on battle preparations, determining whether her team survived the next hour. Around her, 11 humans moved with practiced efficiency. Each understanding individual survival depended entirely on collective action. Eli was setting communications relay when first Vorak air units appeared, living creatures, atmospheric fighter size, wings edged with energy projectors slicing through armor. Their hunting cries echoed like mechanical angel songs. Captain Tree. Eli's voice carried tension of someone maintaining composure while watching death approach. Maybe we should consider Vortal's suggestion. Eli! Elena's voice cut through rising panic surgically. Look at me. Young Private turned from displays to meet Captain's steel-gray eyes. In them he saw something no training could prepare him for, not reckless bravery, but calm acceptance of what needed doing. You volunteered because you wanted to prove something. Not to aliens, not to command, but to yourself. This is that moment, Eli, when you find out what you're really made of. First Wave crested Northern Ridge like nightmare-tied biotechnological enhancements glinting in twilight. They moved with hive mind coordination, each warrior synchronized with collective assault. At their head, Warlord Krethar himself, fusion of tissue and weapons, technology defying classification. Elena's defensive plan built around simple principle. Vorak expected rational opponents who would retreat facing overwhelming odds. Instead, they would encounter humans who transform disadvantages into weapons. All teams initiate convergence protocol. Draw them into crystal maze and make them fight us one at a time. Convergence protocol was pure human innovation. Instead of static positions, Elena's team created mobile interlocking fire zones, moving through formations like deadly dance. Vorak found themselves chasing shadows, numerical advantages negated by terrain, channeling them into kill zones. Mason's team used crystalline structures as electromagnetic amplifiers, turning simple projectiles into area effect systems. Naomi hijacked Vorak networks, feeding false targeting data, causing air support to attack their own forces. Even Eli found courage using geology knowledge to trigger controlled avalanches, bearing assault squads. For 30 minutes, impossible held. 12 humans fought 300 enhanced warriors to standstill, turning Sector 7 into alien ambition graveyard. But mathematics were patient, and eventually they began asserting themselves. Captain, we're down to 15% ammunition, Mason reported, voice strained. Convergent zones are collapsing. We can't maintain cohesion much longer. Elena watched display with growing understanding. They had reached moment every soldier dreaded, when training courage and brilliance weren't enough to overcome numerical reality. Vorak were adapting to human tactics, superior numbers allowing them to probe every weakness simultaneously. Naomi, how long until main defensive line establishes coverage? 23 minutes, Captain, but at current rates we won't last another 10. Elena felt command weight settling like familiar burden. 12 humans, each with families on Earth, each trusting her to find solutions that didn't exist. Mathematics were clear retreat and live or stay and die for tactical advantage that might save thousands. All teams listen carefully. Vorak are concentrating assault on eastern positions. They're trying to punch through our lines and reach main bunker before defensive grid comes online. She paused, knowing next words would change everything. We're going to stop them. Not all of us are going home, but we're going to stop them. Eli understood before anyone else what Elena was really saying. His voice carried maturity that hadn't been there an hour earlier. Captain Fuel Depot in Grid 7 Charlie. If someone could reach manual detonation controls. Explosion would seal eastern approach, Elena finished. But it's one-way trip, Eli. Blast radius extends. I know blast radius, Captain. Eli's voice was steady, conversational. I also know every minute delay gives Krethar more time organizing assault. Someone needs to make the run, and I'm fastest sprinter on team. Elena felt something break inside, not resolve, but part that still believed in solutions not requiring impossible choices. Eli, there has to be another way. Captain, you taught me being human means finding ways when everyone says there isn't one. This is our way. Conversation lasted only seconds, but Elena would remember every word for rest of life. Tactical assessments, risk calculations, and gentle argument of 19-year-old Private who had found courage in certain death's shadow. Eli's run across battlefield was poetry written in violence and determination. He moved through Vorak fire like Ghost, using Elena's coordination to thread needle between death and impossibility. When he reached depot, hands were steady as he activated detonation sequence. "Tell my mom I wasn't scared," he said over comm, and then he was gone. Explosion sealed eastern approach and eliminated 67 Vorak warriors, including 2 sub-commanders. More importantly, it bought time needed for main defensive grid to establish coverage. When dust settled, assault had broken against human determination and sacrifice of one young soldier proving courage wasn't fear's absence, it was action in spite of fear. Elena stood over crater where Eli Brooks made his last stand, small earth flag folded in hands. Around her, 10 humans maintained respectful silence while alien commanders tried understanding how single species could produce warriors fighting like this. "He was just a kid," Mason said quietly. "No," Elena replied, placing flag on crater edge. "He was human, and that made all the difference." Eli's sacrifice aftermath rippled through Alien Alliance like shockwaves from collapsing stars. Elena found herself summoned to Krylos' command bunker, not as minor asset, but as something Galaxy had never seen human military advisor, whose species just redefined impossible odds mathematics. Vortal's compound eyes focused on Elena with intensity. Command center buzzed as 6 species analyzed battle recordings, defying their tactical understanding. "Captain Ward." Vortal's translated voice carried none of previous condescension. "Your species demonstrated capabilities our assessments did not anticipate. Private Brooks's sacrifice eliminated 17% of Krethar's assault formation and disrupted command hierarchy for 47 minutes. Elena nodded, gray eyes revealing nothing of grief clawing at chest. "Private Brooks performed his duty, Commander, as did rest of my team." "Indeed." Vortal manipulated holographic display, showing tactical analyses painting Eli's final charge in data streams and probability matrices. But strategic implications extend beyond casualty statistics. Your soldier's action created psychological impact our specialists struggle to quantify. Display shifted, showing communication intercepts from Vorak networks. Elena watched as alien officers translated enemy transmission fragments, confusion, uncertainty, and something that might have been fear creeping into warrior communications that had previously buzzed with confident aggression. "Vorak are unsettled," continued Zephyrian analyst musical voice carrying wonder. "Their algorithms process conventional responses. Individual sacrifice for collective advantage is theoretically understood, but Private Brooks's action exceeded their predictive parameters." Elena felt grim satisfaction flicker. Eli's death had accomplished something more valuable than tactical advantage. It had introduced doubt into enemy calculations. Commander Vorak rely heavily on predictive modeling for assault strategies, if we can continue operating outside their algorithmic expectations. "You propose to weaponize unpredictability." Vortal's mandibles clicked in intrigued approval. "Your species' approaches consistently violate established doctrine. Perhaps this represents advantage we failed to appreciate." Goliath Commander Carapace, bearing dozen conflict scars, leaned forward with movements making deck plates vibrate. Warmbloods fight without logic. Their Private Brooks could have withdrawn to safety, yet chose certain death for minimal gain. Such behavior suggests either evolutionary defect or... He paused, massive head tilting as he processed concepts not fitting his species' rational worldview. Or, Elena supplied quietly, different definition of victory. Command Center fell silent as alien minds grappled with Elena's statement implications. These were species that had fought wars across star systems, developed technologies reshaping matter at molecular levels, built civilizations spanning galaxies. Yet they were struggling to understand why 19-year-old human would choose death over retreat. Over next hours, Elena found herself teaching tactics to species that had mastered interstellar warfare before humans discovered agriculture. Her approach was fundamentally different from their systematic methodologies. Where they saw orderly battlefields, she saw controlled chaos opportunities. Key is making unpredictability predictable, Elena explained to mixed officer groups. We establish patterns looking random, but actually channeling enemy responses into advantageous situations. Instead of static positions, we create dynamic zones adapting to enemy behavior in real time. Mason proved particularly effective demonstrating concepts to Goliath shock troopers. Think of it like hunting. You don't chase prey directly, you herd it toward where you want it to go. Naomi worked with Zephyrian communications specialists, showing them electronic warfare techniques, turning enemy technology against itself. Vorek depend on network connectivity for coordination, but networks are also vulnerabilities. Even normally reserved alien commanders began showing enthusiasm for these unconventional approaches. Fortal's mandibles clicked in patterns Elena was learning to associate with strategic excitement as he watched simulations where mixed human-alien units achieved objectives neither could accomplish alone. Your species brings something to coalition warfare we had not anticipated, he admitted during brief consultation. Not technological advantages or superior firepower, but fundamental difference in how you perceive conflict itself. Elena nodded, though she suspected Vortal still didn't fully understand what made humans dangerous. Commander, every species in this alliance evolved to be successful within their respective environments. Humans evolved to be successful despite their environment. We're not naturally stronger or faster or smarter, we're naturally stubborn. That evening, Elena watched mixed human-alien patrols move through formations using tactics combining human unpredictability with alien technology. Mason, I think we're about to find out what happens when galaxy's most advanced civilizations learn to think like survivors. In distant sensor arrays detected movement on Northern Horizon Warlord Krethar's forces regrouping for final assault. But this time, they would face enemy that had learned something more dangerous than new weapons. They had learned to think like humans. Final assault came at midnight when Delta 9's artificial aurora cast battlefield in ethereal light, making death look beautiful. Elena's integrated display showed approaching storm not just 300 Vorak from previous attack, but nearly 1,000 enhanced creatures backed by biotechnological war machines defying classification. Krethar had learned from earlier defeat. Approaching force moved with calculated precision assault formation designed to counter every tactic humans had demonstrated, no longer relying on predictable patterns or standardized coordination. This was war stripped of civilized pretense conducted by Commander, who decided survival trumped honor. All units, this is Command. Elena's voice cut through final preparation chaos. Krethar is bringing everything he has. We're looking at overwhelming superiority integrated air support command structures adapted to our previous tactics. This is what we trained for. Churka. Mixed human-alien defensive grid stretched across Delta 9's crystalline landscape like controlled destruction webs. Krylos heavy weapons integrated with human mobility tactics. Zephyrian aerial units coordinated with human electronic warfare specialists. Goliath shock troopers positioned according to human terrain analysis, treating battlefield as living organism rather than static geography. Vortal's translated voice carried across all frequencies with absolute authority. All coalition units implement Protocol Omega, priority authorization for independent tactical decisions. Objectives survive until orbital reinforcement arrives in 97 minutes. Elena smiled grimly, processing that timeline. 97 minutes might as well have been years when facing Krythar's assault force. But she had learned something during Delta 9 time that Galaxy's academies didn't teach sometimes. Longest time in universe is gap between impossible and inevitable. Mason, your integrated Goliath teams are designated Alpha Strike. Hit flanking formations, force them into Crystal Maze. Naomi coordinate electronic warfare with Zephyrian networks. I want their command structure blind before optimal firing range. Battle began with Krethar himself, fusion of living tissue and weapons technology standing 5 meters tall, radiating menace like Dark Star. He led warriors across crystalline wasteland, not with tactics or strategy, but with primal fury that had conquered star systems. This wasn't military science, it was barely controlled destruction given purpose. Elena watched approaching tide through display, feeling something cold settle in chest. Not fear, she had moved beyond fear during Eli's sacrifice. This was recognition. Crethar had stopped fighting like civilized commander and started thinking like human. He was using human unpredictability against coalition forces, turning their own innovations into weapons. Captain! Mason's voice crackled over comm strain, evident despite training. Their assault pattern is chaotic. I can't predict where they're going to hit next. That's the point, Mason Elena replied, voice carrying grim appreciation for enemy adaptation. Crethar learned from our previous engagement. He's fighting like us now. First contact came when Vorak air units struck Zephyrian aerial formations, with tactics violating every coordinated warfare principle. Instead of maintaining formation integrity, they attacked individually, creating chaos, disrupting Elena's defensive grid. Careful timing. When Zephyrian commanders tried adapting, they found themselves facing enemies changing tactics faster than their computers could process. All aerial units implement human-style improvisation protocols. Elena commanded, watching integrated strategies collapse under Crethar's chaotic assault weight. Stop trying to coordinate and start trying to survive. Battle devolved into something military historians would struggle to classify. Traditional warfare required predictable patterns, rational objectives, coordinated responses. What erupted across Delta 9's surface was pure survival, translated into violence, humans teaching aliens to think like predators, while Vorak warriors fought like civilized armies they had conquered. Naomi's electronic warfare suite interfaced with Zephyrian networks, but instead of implementing coordinated jamming protocols, she began introducing controlled chaos into both allied and enemy systems. Captain, I'm randomizing our own communication frequencies. It's disrupting our coordination, but making us invisible to their adaptive algorithms. Good, Elena replied, though part of her wondered if she was witnessing something entirely news birth or military science death as Galaxy understood it. Make them fight blind. Make them fight scared. Mason's integration with Goliath shock troopers produced results neither species could have achieved independently. Massive aliens provided firepower and protection, while human tactics gave them mobility and unpredictability. They moved through formations like predators hitting Vorak positions with surgical strikes coming from directions enemy couldn't anticipate. Alpha strike to command, Mason reported, voice carrying satisfaction despite surrounding chaos. We're not just stopping their advance, we're making them retreat. These bugs don't know how to handle prey, fighting back harder than they attack. But Crethar's adaptation went deeper than tactical innovation. Elena watched sensor displays with growing understanding that Vorak commander had learned something more dangerous than human tactics. He had learned human psychology. Instead of concentrating forces for maximum impact, he dispersed them to create maximum fear. Vorak warriors appeared throughout defensive grid, simultaneously not in coordinated assault formations, but as individual nightmares, forcing coalition defenders to fight on multiple fronts. Each contact was small enough to handle, but collectively, they created psychological pressure, breaking armies more effectively than superior firepower. He's not trying to win through tactics, Elena realized aloud. He's trying to win through exhaustion. Make us fight everywhere at once until we can't fight anywhere effectively. Insight came too late to prevent strategy's initial success. Coalition units found themselves stretched beyond sustainable limits, careful coordination breaking down as they responded to threats materializing faster than they could be eliminated. Defensive grid that looked impressive during planning began showing critical gaps. Elena made decision that would have horrified every military academy in Galaxy. Instead of trying to maintain coordination, she ordered complete tactical independence for all units. No more integrated strategies, no more careful timing, no more civilized warfare. All coalition units implement final protocol. Independent operation survival priority, no coordination requirements. Fight like your species evolved to fight, not like military doctrine says you should. Transformation was immediate and terrifying. Krylos units abandoned technological advantages and began fighting with instinctual cunning that had made them apex predators on homeworlds. Zephyrian aerial formations dissolved into individual hunters using sky-like ancestors had used forest canopies. Even Goliath shock troopers began moving with raw territorial fury of creatures defending breeding grounds. And humans did what humans had always done, they adapted. Elena's remaining team members spread throughout battlefield not as coordinated units, but as individual catalysts amplifying deadly potential of alien allies. Mason fought alongside Goliath warriors, not as tactical coordinator, but as pack leader. Naomi interfaced with Zephyrian hunters not as communication specialist, but as electronic conscience. Each human became force multiplier, turning civilized soldiers into evolutionary weapons. Battle's turning point came when Elena herself encountered Warlord Krithar among crystal formations. 5 meters of biotechnological nightmare faced one exhausted human captain whose species was considered barely advanced enough for interstellar warfare. By every rational calculation, Elena should have been killed in seconds. Instead, she did something Krathar's enhanced psychology couldn't process. She smiled. "Warlord," she said conversationally voice, carrying across electromagnetic chaos through suit's external speakers, "you've learned to fight like human, but did you learn to think like one?" Krithar's response was fusion of roar and electronic screech that would have terrified any rational being. His integrated weapons systems charged with energy signatures capable of leveling buildings, while enhanced physiology prepared for combat, reducing Elena to component atoms. That's when trap closed around him. Elena hadn't been fighting to win individual battles. She had been herding Krithar toward this specific location, using human psychology against his adaptive intelligence. Every retreat, every tactical decision, every apparent mistake had been designed to bring Vorak Commander to this crystalline formation, where Mason's demolition charges waited beneath surface. "You learned to be unpredictable," Elena said, as first explosions began, "but you never learned to be patient." Controlled detonation brought down enough crystalline structure to trap Krithar in geological cage that even his enhanced strength couldn't break. More importantly, his capture created psychological shock rippling through Vorak assault force, like virus turning their adapted human tactics into chaotic retreat. When orbital reinforcements arrived 47 minutes early, they found battlefield defying every military science principle. Coalition forces had not just stopped Krithar's assault, they had redefined what victory looked like when civilized armies learned to think like survivors. Elena stood over Krithar's crystalline prison gray eyes, reflecting alien aurora, still painting sky in beautiful colors. Around her mixed human-alien coalition was learning something that would change balance of power across galaxy. They were learning to fight like humans. 3 weeks after Battle of Delta 9, Elena stood in Hall of Victories aboard Krylos' flagship Determination, watching alien artisans carve humanity's first memorial into stone that had witnessed galactic empires rise and fall. Carving was simple by alien standards, human hand-grasping flag surrounded by symbols representing sacrifice, adaptation, and stubborn courage, defying mathematical probability. For Private Eli Brooks, inscription read in 17 languages, who taught Galaxy that true strength comes not from what you are born with, but what you choose to do with it. Vortal approached with careful movements of someone still processing concepts challenging fundamental assumptions about warfare evolution and survival itself. His compound eyes focused on Memorial with something that might have been reverence. Captain Ward. His translated voice carried none of first meeting condescension. Galactic Military Council has requested comprehensive tactical reports on human combat methodologies. Our xenopsychology specialists are particularly interested in what they term weaponized unpredictability. Elena nodded, though part of her wondered if Galaxy was ready for implications of treating human tactics as teachable doctrine. "Commander, I'm not sure our approaches can be systematized. We don't fight the way we do because of training protocols. We fight that way because we've never had any other choice." "Indeed." Vortal manipulated portable holographic display, showing battle recordings from Delta 9 that had become required study material at military academies across 6 star systems. "Your species has introduced variables into galactic warfare that our strategists are still attempting to quantify. Term they have coined is evolutionary tactical doctrine. Military approaches adapting faster than countermeasures can be developed." Elena watched recordings with mixed emotions. Seeing Eli's final charge reduced to tactical data and probability matrices felt like watching poetry dissected for grammatical analysis. Courage, fear, impossible hope that had carried 12 humans through battles they shouldn't have survived, all translated into sterile assessments, missing human elements that made victory possible. Captain Vortal continued, "There is something else. Representatives from 47 species have requested permission to send military observers to study human tactical methods. Your homeworld has become what our sociologists term strategic pilgrimage destination." Irony wasn't lost on Elena. For centuries, humanity had looked to stars wondering if they were alone in universe. Now universe was looking to Earth, wondering how such unlikely species had become so dangerous. Latest intelligence reports described alien military academies implementing human studies. Programs trying to understand how evolution on single world had produced warriors treating impossible odds as tactical opportunities. Mason joined them, familiar cockiness now tempered with professional confidence that came from surviving battles, redefining what survival meant. Captain Zephyrian High Command wants to know if we'd be willing to train their special forces units. Apparently, our controlled chaos protocols have become new standard for asymmetric warfare. Elena smiled at phrase. Controlled chaos protocols, as if human stubbornness could be reduced to military doctrine. Mason, did you explain to them that we don't have protocols? We just do whatever seems least likely to get us killed at any given moment. I tried, but they insisted on comprehensive tactical manuals. I think I accidentally created 300-page document on situational impossibility management. Conversation was interrupted by announcement echoing through flagship corridors in harmonized frequencies designed for multiple species auditory systems. Galactic Council was convening to address what official reports termed human tactical revolution and its implications for interstellar military doctrine. Elena found herself walking through corridors lined with representatives from civilizations spanning galaxies, each trying to understand how 12 mammals from relatively primitive world had changed fundamental nature of coalition warfare. Questions were always same. How did humans make unpredictability predictable? Could their tactical approaches be taught to other species? Most importantly, what would happen if humanity's enemies learned to think like humans? Council chamber was masterpiece of alien architecture, crystalline walls, shifting color according to speakers' emotional resonance, atmospheric processors, maintaining perfect environmental conditions for dozens of species translation matrices, rendering thoughts into concepts transcending linguistic barriers. Elena had never felt more human than when surrounded by such technological sophistication. High Chancellor Zarthis, being whose species had witnessed Star's birth, addressed assembly with authority that came from governing civilizations for geological ages. Recent engagement at Delta 9 has demonstrated capabilities requiring careful consideration by this council. Humanity has introduced tactical methodologies challenging established frameworks for interstellar conflict. Elena listened as council debated human military doctrine implications with scholarly precision, missing essential point. They were trying to understand courage as if it were technology, analyzing sacrifice like chemistry, cataloging human stubbornness as if it could be replicated in laboratory conditions. Chancellor, Elena said when recognized to speak, "With respect, you're approaching this backwards. You're trying to understand what humans do instead of why we do it." Chamber fell silent as beings who had mastered faster-than-light travel and planetary engineering focused on single human captain whose species had barely achieved interstellar flight. Elena felt their attention weight like gravity pulling at thoughts she had never expected to share with alien minds. "We don't fight the way we do because we're particularly brave or unusually clever," she continued. "We fight that way because we're scared. Humans have been prey species for most of our evolutionary history. Everything on our world was bigger, stronger, faster, or more poisonous than we were. We learned to survive by being unpredictable because predictable humans became extinct." Zarthis' sensory organs oriented toward Elena with focus suggesting profound interest. "You propose that human tactical superiority stems from evolutionary disadvantage." "I'm saying humans don't see tactical disadvantage the same way other species do," Elena replied. When you've spent million years being outmatched by everything around you, being outnumbered becomes just another problem to solve. We don't fight to win, we fight to survive. And survival doesn't follow mathematical rules. Elena's statement implications rippled through council chamber like shockwaves through water. If human tactical approaches stemmed from evolutionary psychology rather than teachable doctrine, then other species might need to fundamentally reconsider their understanding of military science itself. Over following hours, Elena fielded questions ranging from tactical specifics to philosophical inquiries about courage nature. Each answer seemed generating more questions, as if Galaxy's greatest minds were discovering that warfare was more art than science when conducted by species that had learned to weaponize desperation. Captain Ward asked representative from Alterian Dominion, "Your species consistently demonstrates willingness to accept casualties for minimal tactical advantage. How do human commanders make such calculations?" Elena considered question thinking about Eli Brooks and his final transmission. "We don't calculate. We feel. When someone you care about is in danger, mathematics becomes irrelevant. You do whatever needs to be done because alternative is accepting defeat, and humans are evolutionarily incapable of accepting defeat." Session concluded with formation of what became known as Human Studies Commission Multi-Species Organization, dedicated to understanding humanity's impact on galactic military doctrine. Elena suspected they would spend decades analyzing what could be summarized in single sentence: humans fight differently because they think differently, and they think differently because they had to. As Elena prepared to return to Earth with surviving team members, she received final transmission from Vortal. His compound eyes showed what she had learned to recognize as profound respect mixed with something that might have been gratitude. Captain Ward Krylos Confederacy owes humanity debt that cannot be quantified in standard economic terms. Your species has given us something more valuable than military victory. You have given us new way to understand what courage means. Elena nodded, though she suspected Vortal still didn't fully grasp what he had witnessed. "Commander, we didn't come here to teach courage. We came here to do job. Courage was just what it took to get job done." "Indeed, and perhaps that is most profound lesson of all." Transport that carried Elena's team back to Earth was filled with representatives from species wanting to establish permanent diplomatic relations with humanity. Galaxy had discovered that most dangerous military innovation wasn't better technology or superior tactics, it was refusal to accept that some battles couldn't be won. As Earth appeared in viewports looking impossibly small and fragile against star-filled void, Elena reflected on what her species had accomplished. 12 humans had held line everyone expected them to lose, proving that most effective weapon in universe wasn't advanced technology or evolutionary advantage. It was simple human conviction that as long as you're still breathing, fight isn't over. Memorial to Private Eli Brooks would remain in Hall of Victories for centuries, inspiring beings from across galaxy who came to understand that true strength wasn't about what you were born with. It was about what you chose to do when everything else failed. And in military academies throughout known universe, alien cadets would study those Scifi stories of humans who redefined galactic war through nothing more than stubborn refusal to accept defeat, learning that sometimes most dangerous warriors are ones everyone underestimates. Humanity had taught Galaxy lesson that would echo through ages: you don't have to be born strong to become legend. You just have to be willing to stand up when everyone else expects you to fall down. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join thousands of viewers who believe in human spirit power. Share this with someone who needs to remember that being underestimated isn't disadvantage. It's opportunity to prove everyone wrong. Galaxy learned not to count out humanity. What impossible odds are you ready to face? Let us know in comments below, and remember, fight isn't over until you decide it is.